ask you a very honest question. If you have 25 million naira right now in your bank account sitting there, would you confidently make a decision of studying abroad? I'm not talking about you being influenced, because many of your friends have also made the same decision. They've traveled out to school abroad and they're not living there. Or because your family is pressuring you that, oh, this is the next decision to take. You can travel out and better your life. I mean, logically, will you sit down and think of, oh, I need to use this 25 million naira to study abroad? I'm saying this because in 2026, studying abroad or making a decision to relocate is no longer just something that you do or you just take yourself and move. It's a financial investment, and like every other investment, it's either it increases your life, or it drains you. So is it still worth it in 2026 to relocate, study abroad with the aim of living there thereafter? Let me break it down for you. Every week I get messages in my inbox from people asking different questions, such as, is the UK still good? Is Canada closing their doors? Will I get a job after my master's? Will I get sponsorship? And similar other questions. But going through all those messages, one thing I've come to realize is that a lot of people do not know how the system works anymore. They are making a 2026 decision using information from back in 2018, when policies were looser, dependents could travel whenever they like, salary threshold was lower, and it was just, easier. Even those who wanted to do post-study, it was an easier route for them, and it was more reliable, more secure. But now in 2026, policies are tighter, salary thresholds are higher. A lot of things are happening. So before you make the decision or you click apply, before you spend your 25 million naira or thereabout, make sure that you know these three things. There are some three factors that you need to consider before you finally apply to study abroad in the UK or even any country. The first thing that you need to consider is that studying abroad can be worth it when your course of study leads to real demand in terms of jobs. A lot of people make the mistake of thinking about a country first, or what country can I go, instead of thinking of what career path exists in these places. That's the first mistake that people make. In the UK, for instance, fields or careers like nursing, healthcare, some engineering fields, and some tech areas, some tech specialization are actually good. But another factor you want to consider is that when you're talking about getting sponsorship, there is a salary threshold. So after your school, for instance, if you go into, for instance, say mental health nursing, which is very expensive, by the way, it's really very expensive. If you manage to study this and you graduate and you are able to find a job, the question is, are they going to be able to pay you up to the salary threshold where they can give you sponsorship? If you get a job, they're not going to automatically give you a sponsorship for you to stay in the UK after your study. You are going to need to get a job whose salary meets the threshold. So you need to earn a certain amount of money, which many people do not earn when they are starting work here in the UK. So that is another factor you need to consider. First, the course that you study must lead to real demand, and you must be able to get jobs that meet the salary threshold for you to be able to get sponsorship, which will now allow you to stay in the UK. Another point that you want to bear in mind, which is equally important, is that immigration policies are changing and they are getting stricter. They are getting tighter by the day. One of such immigration policies is the policy around dependent. So before now, if you're going for a third master's, you could bring in your dependent, maybe wife, husband, parent, partners. But now, that is no longer the case. You can no longer bring in your dependent, children, family members is not allowed, except you are going for a research-based master's. So that puts a big strain on your finances, because what that means is that you're going to be the only person catering for your school fees, catering from your house rent, for your feeding and other expenses. So you need to put that into consideration. But the question now is, will you be able to meet up? And remembering that you would have only 21 hours or thereabout to work. So because you're also you are merging that with your studies. So you need to also consider that factor very well. You also need to bear in mind that proof of funds are now more scrutinized. When you're applying for your study abroad visa, you have to show your school fees in your bank account and a certain amount to show for your living expenses. You're expected to have that in the bank. So right now, immigration, they make sure that they scrutinize your bank statement very carefully so that they can detect any borrowed funds. So this has to be something that is genuine and clear. So if there is anything that is not clear, there might be problem there. And remember, the school fees is also more. So what people were paying before to come study abroad in the UK, for instance, is almost double for some schools. And so it's a lot of percentage increase. So you need to consider that. And remember I said at the beginning of this video that 25 million naira, which will just be about maybe 12,000 pounds, 12,500 pounds. There are many courses, and in many universities are even more expensive than that. And remember all the other expenses that you will do when you're coming, and even when you get here in the UK, if you do not get a job immediately to alongside with your school, then you will need money. How will you be feeding? Will you be paying for your rent? You need that support. So there might be a lot of money you still spend outside of the school fees, and now that the school fees is also a lot more, you need to think about these things carefully. That's why I'm highlighting everything. I'm putting everything on the table for you to choose your card and play it very well. Now, there's something else that you need to factor into your decision making before you make that final decision. I hinted at it earlier, and that is salary threshold. Salary threshold now determine if you can stay in the UK after your studies or not. I mentioned that it's good for you to go for a course that is in high demand. Yeah, that is good and nice. But even after studying that course, if you get a job, for instance, if you study any course related to healthcare, maybe nursing, tech degrees or tech related degrees, and you get a job, the question is, will the job be able to pay you enough salary to meet the threshold that is expected? Now, let me break this down for you. For you to stay long term in the UK, you need an employer sponsorship. And for you to get that employer sponsorship, there must be a minimum of the salary that you earn. Now, for the UK, that minimum has been has been increased to now £38,700 per year. As of the time of making this video, you must be able to earn £38,700 per year for an average skilled worker visa employer, right? That is what is expected for you to earn at least. But now the question is, how many people are able to get a job that will pay them as much as this? It may not sound like a lot of money to you, but trust me, in the UK, a lot of skilled worker visa holder are not able to make or earn up to this. But if you get a well-paying job, maybe in tech, and you're able to get this and you're able to get a sponsorship, then you can guarantee your long-term staying in the UK. Otherwise, then there might be some challenges there. And let me also address this thing before I forget. A lot of people think that once they study abroad, they should be able to stay in the country afterwards and try to get a job and then settle down. Yeah, as simple as that may sound, it is not always that easy. For many countries, they give you some limited time to stay in the country after your course. In the UK, you can get up to 2 years after your master's. It's called post-study. So that post-study visa, you need to pay some money actually to apply for it. It's not free. Almost every step you take here in the UK, you pay to get it. So you pay for the post-study visa, but in those 2 years, you must get 3 things. You must get a job, you must get an employer that is willing to give you sponsorship for the job, and the job must be able to pay you a certain amount of money, which is the threshold. So you need to meet these 3 things. If you do not meet those 3 things, it's going to be difficult for you to stay and work legally after your study. So have that in mind, that it's not automatic. First, you need to pay money to stay for the post-studies, and then you need to get these 3 things. Now, let me talk about some of the advantages of studying abroad, because we have to create a balanced picture. Studying abroad can transform you, can transform your mindset, your exposure, your confidence. It can open doors to you that you would never have accessed locally. That has happened to many people. But that transformation is not going to happen even if you study abroad, if you are not strategic and if you are not proactive. You have to be proactive and strategic for you to open these doors. Otherwise, it will just be an expensive master's that you have, another paper added to the certificates that you have. But if you are strategic, if you are proactive, and if you plan very well, then studying abroad can be a very good leverage for you. So is studying abroad still worth it in 2026? Yes would be my answer, especially if you consider all these factors I've talked about, and if you can strategize around those factors and you know how to go about it, then it can still be a good investment in 2026. But if you just want to travel abroad because people are relocating, I'm tired, I need to relocate without any strategy, then you need to pause and think, because in 2026, it is very expensive to make that move of relocating to study abroad. So it must be a very well calculated investment. If you also like to know some of the fully funded scholarships for you to travel and study abroad in the UK, Canada, Australia, Germany, and other countries, I have a video where I talked about all of the fully funded scholarships that you can get now, and the video is somewhere there. Make sure you click watch, enjoy, and I'll see you in the next one.